and welcome to Behind the Music for Daily Hope. I'm Kristin Holton, Prouty, the Director of Worship and Music here at Victory, and it's always a joy to get to come together and share a little bit with you about what I'm thinking as I plan worship. This week we're continuing on our journey of a disciple, and this week we're with Paul in Athens, where he's very troubled to see all these idols to the many different gods, and then especially an altar to the unknown God, lest any god they weren't aware of be offended. And so he took this opportunity to share with them about his God, the creator of heaven and earth, and try and be a witness to the people there around him. Some of them believed, some of them didn't. We don't actually know the full impact of his teachings there. But we do know that we worship a known God, and that's pretty exciting. Every week we come together here in worship and we stand together and we share in a creed. Often it's the Apostles' Creed that begins, I believe in God the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth. Martin Luther, even hundreds and hundreds of years ago, wrote about the importance of knowing this creed and being able to say it. He wrote it in both his large catechism and in his small catechism because he wanted people of all ages and understanding to be able to think about it and know the meaning of this creed. He even said it to music, as he liked to do, because we all know that if we sing something, it's more likely to stick in our head. And he created this into a hymn, We All Believe in One True God. And that was published in a hymnal in 1524 as something that people could sing both in church and at home. It's actually still in our hymnal today, although we don't actually sing it very often. You might not be familiar with it, but let me play a little bit of it for you. So it's much longer than that. It goes on and it goes through the entire creed, paraphrased by Luther, of course, in German and in our hymnal in English. So if you have a hymnal or you want to look online, that's something that's worth checking out there. Maybe you'll learn to sing the creed. So less than 100 years after Martin Luther passed away, the arguably most important Lutheran composer of all time, Johann Sebastian Bach, was born. And much of his output throughout his life was for liturgical and sacred purposes. And so much of it is used in church, and even if it's not specifically church music, it's still appropriate to be used in a sacred space. But he did, near the end of his life, write a collection for organ that was specifically about the German organ Mass. We call it Klavierübung. And in it, he takes many parts of the Mass and sets it out in what he would consider to be the ideal Lutheran worship service. Begins with a prelude, has the Kyrie, different parts, all the way through to a postlude. And it's really still today considered one of the most elaborate, one of the most complex pieces of organ music there is. Every one of them, he was just about 10 years before he died, so he was at the height of his compositional technique, and he was really trying to put his whole heart and soul into this thing that he felt strongly about. And just like Martin Luther, who had both the large catechism for the adults and the more learned people, and the small catechism to be used by families or things like that, children, Bach also included in this collection, when he would have a chorale tune, he would set it in an elaborate fashion and then in a more smaller, simple fashion, because he wanted organists, whether they were advanced or not so advanced, he wanted them to be able to have access to this music to be used in church. So this is a really, really great collection. I could spend weeks just talking about this. But for today, I want to focus on his setting of We All Believe in One True God. So he takes it, and I'm using the more complex setting of it. He takes it and he sets it in a trio fashion because he's nodding to the Trinity that we're talking about here in the Apostles' Creed. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Which means in a trio that my right hand is doing something, my left hand is doing something, and my feet are hopefully working together and doing their own thing. Let me play you a little bit of how it begins. it goes on and so forth. If you hear from the hymnal, we have that. So he's not exactly stating the whole melody of the tune, but he's sort of borrowing with the intervals and things and creating a chorale based on that. So this is a very, very cool piece. Very technically challenging to play. I've already spent some time practicing it, and I'll practice it some more before you get to hear me play the full thing this weekend in worship. But it's just such a joy to be able to tie in what we're learning from the pastors as they're up front sharing the word, and also as we sing and we try and incorporate this all together. It's a joy that we have a true God to worship, the creator of heaven and earth, and I hope you join me in praising him through music this week.